I need to start with a confession. If you've followed this channel for a while, you already know that my fascination with Elvis Presley isn't casual. It's not surface-level nostalgia. It's not just about the jumpsuits or the headlines. It's about the mythology, the cultural shockwave, the contradiction between icon and human being. So when Baz Luhrmann announced epic Elvis Presley in concert, I didn't just mark my calendar. I leaned in. Because after seeing what he did with Elvis starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks, I knew this wouldn't be ordinary. Luhrmann doesn't approach legends quietly. He builds cathedrals around them. And this time, instead of recreating Elvis, he went back to the source. Before we begin, if you've watched the movie, please share your thoughts in the comments. It's very important to me, and I would be very happy if you also liked the video. During the production of Elvis, Luhrmann reportedly explored an enormous archive of concert footage. Much of it was originally considered for the biopic, but instead of folding it into that narrative, he preserved it. And what we're seeing now is the result of that decision. What Epic delivers is a newly restored compilation of Elvis's Las Vegas performances, particularly from the later chapter of his career. We're talking about footage that feels both historic and strangely immediate. Material that captures not just a performer, but a moment in American culture that can never be recreated. I'll be honest though, this wasn't exactly what I expected. Going in, I thought I was about to experience something closer to a large-scale cinematic concert event. Something in the vein of Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, or Renaissance, a film by Bianca. A full performance spectacle, a clean, uninterrupted stage experience. That's not what this is. Instead, Epic takes a more intimate route. The concert performances are interwoven with archival footage and cultural context. We're not just watching Elvis sing, we're watching America change around him. There are flashes of the British invasion era, moments when the Beatles were reshaping global music, images of fans holding signs that read "Elvis is dead," a brutal symbol of his perceived cultural decline. It's uncomfortable, it's raw, it reminds you how quickly the public can move on. But then the film pivots, because what follows is one of the most dramatic reinventions in entertainment history, Elvis's Las Vegas resurgence. Packed showrooms, sold-out crowds, women throwing lingerie onto the stage. The electricity in the room is almost tangible, and Elvis, fully in command, stands there like a man who refuses to be erased. That layered structure gives the film an almost handmade quality. It doesn't feel like a straightforward concert broadcast. It feels reflective, personal, even vulnerable. And that's where Luhrmann's fingerprints become undeniable. One of the reasons I respect Baz Luhrmann as a filmmaker is his sincerity. You can feel that he genuinely reveres Elvis and the Presley family. This isn't exploitation, it's admiration. The scale, the drama, the emotional intensity, it all aligns perfectly with an artist whose presence was larger than life. Luhrmann's signature theatricality fits Elvis like a tailored suit. You can sense the research, the care, the intention to protect a legacy rather than simply monetize it. That passion shapes the entire tone of the film. Now let's talk about the restoration, because this is where Epic genuinely surprised me. The footage looks stunning. It retains the warmth and grain of archival film, but it's been enhanced with clarity and color that feel bold without being artificial. There's a careful balance between nostalgia and cinematic grandeur. It doesn't erase history, it elevates it. You can tell significant effort went into preserving and enhancing this material. The texture remains intact, yet it feels alive. Not dusty, not distant, alive. That alone makes the theatrical experience worthwhile. But I do need to address something that caught me off guard. For a film marketed as Elvis Presley in concert, I expected something closer to a continuous live performance. Instead, several songs are shortened to make room for additional archival clips and contextual segments. There were moments where I found myself wishing I could just stay in the performance. Let the song breathe. Let the camera linger. The transitions between concert footage and archival material occasionally interrupt the flow. If you're expecting a traditional concert film, that shift might feel jarring at first. But here's the thing. That structural choice is also what differentiates Epic from standard concert releases. It's not trying to replicate a setlist. It's trying to contextualize a cultural phenomenon. And that ambition deserves acknowledgement. Still, like any devoted fan at a live show, I couldn't help hoping for certain iconic performances. Songs like Unchained Melody or If I Can Dream are deeply associated with Elvis's emotional range. Their absence is noticeable. I understand the practical constraint of a 90-minute runtime. The tighter length keeps the film focused and accessible, but if there were an extended edition with additional full-length performances, I would watch it instantly, because the appetite for this material is real. What makes this documentary especially fascinating is how it contrasts with Luhrmann's earlier biopic. In Elvis, the Las Vegas years are portrayed with a darker undertone. Colonel Tom Parker's manipulative control, the relentless performance schedule, the increasing reliance on prescription medication, the suffocating grind of 2 shows a night, 7 days a week. It feels heavy, confining, almost tragic. Epic, however, presents a different surface. Here, those same years are vibrant, energetic, filled with laughter, camaraderie with vocalists, and an audience that appears utterly captivated. There's joy radiating from the stage. The question that lingers is this: which version is closer to the truth? Was the energy authentic, or was it a performance masking deeper struggles? The film doesn't explicitly answer that, and maybe it shouldn't, because Elvis, like most icons, existed in duality, triumph and exhaustion, power and vulnerability, celebration and isolation. That tension is part of what makes him endlessly compelling. What I ultimately appreciate about Epic is that it doesn't flatten Elvis into a single narrative. It allows complexity. It allows contradiction. And that complexity is what keeps audiences talking decades later. From a cinematic perspective, the film feels immersive. It invites you into the atmosphere of Las Vegas during one of the most pivotal phases of Elvis's career. It's less about delivering a checklist of hits and more about recreating a cultural pulse. For longtime fans, this is a powerful theatrical experience. For newer audiences, it's an accessible entry point into understanding why Elvis became more than just a musician. He became an era, and maybe that's the real takeaway. Epic may not be the straightforward concert film some viewers anticipate, but in exchange, it offers something richer, a textured portrait of a cultural titan at a turning point, a reminder of reinvention, a reminder of endurance. As someone who deeply admired Luhrmann's original biopic, I find this companion piece to be both complementary and revealing. It doesn't overwrite the darker narrative, it expands it. And that expansion matters, because when we talk about icons, we often reduce them to headlines, scandals, tragedies. Legends deserve more nuance than that. Elvis Presley was not just a voice, not just a stage presence. He was a reflection of America's shifting identity during the 20th century. Epic captures that reflection with reverence. It celebrates without ignoring complexity. It restores without romanticizing too heavily. It feels curated, intentional, and personal. And honestly, walking out of the theater, I didn't feel like I had simply watched a concert. I felt like I had revisited a moment in American history. If you're expecting a traditional, uninterrupted live performance, you may need to adjust your expectations. But if you're open to something more layered, something that blends music with memory and cultural context, there's real substance here. For me, that's what makes it memorable. Epic, Elvis Presley in Concert stands as one of the more distinctive music documentaries of the year. It's immersive, it's emotionally resonant, and it reaffirms why Elvis remains a figure people still debate, analyze, and celebrate. And maybe that's the ultimate measure of an icon. You don't just remember them, you revisit them. And if you've seen Epic already, I'm genuinely curious where you landed. Did you prefer the layered structure, or were you hoping for a pure concert experience? I think that conversation is part of what makes this film interesting. Either way, this isn't the last time we'll be dissecting a project like this on this channel, because when cinema meets legacy, there's always more beneath the surface. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.